So what is serviced accommodation? Well, effectively, serviced accommodation is a property that is provided for guests as an alternative to a hotel. So, holiday lets people think similar, and they are to some degree, but they do have some differences, especially when it comes to taxation. But effectively, we're competitors to hotels. You've probably done it yourself. You've gone somewhere. If you're staying for a night and it's just yourself, of course, the hotel is going to be better value. But if you're going somewhere for a few days or a week, maybe you're going to a course or you're working away, then if you've got your own place to stay where you can cook your own food, you can be in your own space that you have temporarily rented, then you're going to be able to get along and live life slightly differently to what you would in a hotel. When you rock up at a service accommodation, it is fully furnished. You do not have to bring anything with you but your suitcase, your clothes, and the things you want for yourself. All your crockery, your glassware, your ovenware, the furniture, the bedding, it's all there, ready to be used. And the best thing is the rates are based on nightly rates. Now, there will be longer stays where you give a discount, so you might do a special weekly rate, but predominantly everything is calculated around a nightly based rate. And ultimately, the biggest thing to comprehend with this strategy is it is a strategy that runs within a property portfolio. Doesn't have to be a portfolio you own, but ultimately the business itself is a hospitality business. It runs on top of the property. So why do I use rent serviced accommodation, and why am I saying to you that this is a great strategy if you want to build cash fast, or even just build up pots of money to go and do your own purchases later down the road? Well, first of all, there's no mortgages to pop in there. You don't need to get a mortgage. So if you're somebody that is struggling, you can't get a mortgage at the minute for whatever reason, maybe you've only recently come to the UK, maybe you haven't saved up a big enough deposit, maybe you've got some money that you've got from private lenders, but the banks and the mortgage companies don't want you to get a mortgage with somebody else's money. All of those things are actually saved by doing this strategy to begin with, and it allows you to build up your own big deposits, because the great thing with this is there are no big deposits to put down. We're doing a creative rental strategy. Now, what I'm going to share with you tonight is also something that you can do on properties that you own either already or ones that you might own in the future. But ultimately, the creative side of this strategy is actually utilising properties you don't own, and even potentially getting into those deals with other people's money without a mortgage broker or a lender saying, no, that's not your money, you can't have that deal. And the deposits themselves aren't that big. If we think about a house price, and I'm going to use up north where I am based, we can still get some houses for 100, 120,000. So let's take 120,000, which around here would get you a half decent three bed house, not necessarily a semi, but would definitely get you a 2-bed terraced and possibly a 3-bed terraced as well. Now, if we were going to buy a property for 120,000, we're going to have to put down as an investor a minimum of 25% deposit. Now, you will theoretically, with that strategy, be buying the house. So you're building equity up, of course you are. But at the end of the day, that means you've got £30,000 on that house to put in before you begin. And you could go to private funders and actually utilise their money, but many banks will then say, no, that's not your money. So you've got to get creative ways to show them that that money that you've actually borrowed from somebody else is actually classed as your money. So there's lots of different hurdles to get round. And if we look at the standard BRRR strategy, which is buy, refurbish, refinance and rent, you might be 3 months in conveyancing. So from the day of putting an offer and getting it accepted, it could be 3 months before you own the house, possibly even more. Some solicitors these days are so busy, they're taking 4 or 5 months to get through certain purchases. You've also got to get your mortgage lending if you don't have the ability to buy with cash or any other form. You've also potentially got to refurbish the house. That's why that strategy is called buy, refurbish, refinance and rent. So you could be spending anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months and longer, depending on the size of the project, to refurbish that property and get it ready for somebody to rent as a home. So all in all, you could have put £30,000 in, plus your refurbishment money, which could be 20, 25, 30,000 or more. and it could take you 9 months before you start seeing any income. So with this strategy, there's no big deposit and you can start getting income and cash flow quicker. So we talked about no refurb, the no deposits, and not having to worry about the mortgages. So why now? Well, some investors are tired. There's lots of things going on in the market, regulation on normal tenancy rentals, whether it's HMOs or buy-to-lets. They're getting a bit tighter. There's more hurdles to go through, and they're not a problem. They're just part and parcel of being a landlord. But obviously there's some older landlords and amateurs and accidental landlords where they're now tired of all the constraints they have and all the things they have to do in order to be able to rent out that property. Given the house price increases that started when we had the initial stamp duty holiday back in COVID, that didn't serve its purpose. It was designed to let first-time buyers get on the market. The market shot up, first-time buyers were priced out. And we ended up in a market for three and a half years where people were having to pay over asking price to get deals. Now, granted, rents have gone up. They've gone up more than they have in recent history. But if you look at the house prices in most areas against even the current rentals, they're still not giving you the cash flow they used to do, especially when you factor in that due to interest rates and the economy, mortgages themselves, the interest on them is now taking a big part of a landlord's cash flow. So cash flow has been reduced in line with that. For many people, funding can be a problem. We've already gone through that. Even to get a £120,000 house with a mortgage alongside it, you're going to have a deposit of around £30,000 plus your refurb money. And in many instances, the lenders want to see that as your money, not money you've borrowed from a private funder. Many of you are looking for income fast. You're wanting to get pots of money so that you can go on and build up your own deposits as a way to actually alleviate the pain of the hurdles you go through if you're borrowing other people's private money to actually build your portfolio. Many of you are finding that you might not know people at this stage. If you're a beginner in property, then the biggest hurdle is actually getting that first deal and actually finding people who are willing to lend you private funds for the deposits. And that's before you get to the mortgage lender who doesn't want you to have a deposit funded by somebody else. We've got a growing number of motivated landlords. And the biggest one that's motivating them now, other than being tired, is all the discussion around whether Section 21 in England will be abolished or not. It's already gone in Scotland and in Wales. Now, if you think about it, if you're a landlord and the no-fault eviction has gone, which I do understand why the government want to actually make sure tenants have some longevity and security in their tenancies, it means you now have to be in a position where you're either selling the home or the tenant has actually done something against their contract to enable you to go to court and move them out. Now, don't get me wrong, Section 21 doesn't remove the court process. If you serve a Section 21, which is your notice for a tenant to quit with no fault on their part, then, of course, if they choose to move out on the end date, that's great. There's no need to go to court. If they don't, you have a quick court process to actually move them out of the property. With this strategy, the landlords do not have to worry about having to serve you Section 21s or Section 8s, which are the no fault and the fault-based evictions. So there's no big court process to go through. And remember, if they remove the Section 21 right now, the courts themselves are so backlogged and don't have the right procedures for Section 21 going away, that when it does go away, if the court process hasn't been adapted and changed, you could end up finding yourself having a tenant in your property that's there for 10, 11, 12 months, owing you money on rent they're not paying, and you not being able to move them out until it goes through that court process. So lots of reasons why the government is looking at this desire to move Section 21. For us, it's an opportunity, not a problem, because that means we've got more landlords who are now getting a little bit afraid due to the media hype that they are going to be stuck with tenants that are not paying them, causing damage, that they are going to struggle to move on. With the serviced accommodation rental, we do not rent under normal tenancies. They are not part of the Regulated Tenancy Act, and therefore the owner can move you out within 14, 21 days if you don't pay their rent as a company renter. So that's why now is a massive reason, along with the fact there are win-win benefits for the landlord and for you.